In the signature of my email is a quote. It's a quote from Dr. Cornel West, a professor, philosopher, and activist. I've always loved the quote that he is most known for. Never forget that justice is what love looks like in public. I'm proud to have that quote on all of my emails because it's the epitome of my Unitarian Universalist faith for me. Love is the center of my faith, and justice is what happens when we love out loud. This year, we are exploring the new values that are being proposed by the Unitarian Universalist Association. These new values would replace our 8 principles that have been around since 1985. Each month, we're exploring a different principle. Each principle has a one-word handle, a one-sentence description, and then a call to action. It also has a color. This month is yellow. Thank you very much to our internal folks using our Arizona citrus as inspiration. We have already explored love at the center, pluralism, and equity. For February, we are exploring justice. Justice. We work to be a diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. Will you read it out with me, starting with the word justice? Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. So let's break that down some. Because justice is a complicated word in that it means different things to different people, and because it is so hard to achieve. Like Dr. West, I think of justice as a verb, like love, a verb that we are constantly doing, not a destination where we arrive some mythical day. It's an ideal that many of the systems and structures in our world are directly working against. It is the result of the love that is at the center of our faith. If we love without working for justice, then our love is shallow and selfish. It also uses the term beloved community, but I wonder if we all know what it means or can really break that apart. The term beloved community was first expressed by Josiah Royce, who's a philosopher and professor at Harvard. He used it in 1913. Royce wrote, "My life means nothing, either theoretically or practically, unless I am a member of a community." He observed that besides the actual communities we experience in our daily lives, there was also an ideal, beloved community made up of all of those who were dedicated to the cause of loyalty and truth. Royce did not see the community as a static object, but as an all-embracing radical idea of unity for the entire human race. But the term beloved community became much more known when the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who studied philosophy and must have studied Royce's work, used it in action. He wrote about beloved community in his Facing the Challenge of a New Age in 1956. King said, "But the end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of a beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform oppressors into friends. It is this kind of understanding and goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring about miracles. So, beloved community is not just about community, but a deep creation, understanding, and transformation through community. And both Royce and King intended the beloved community to be racially oriented, but I love that our denomination is intentionally calling it out to be multicultural. And then the new value combines two elements of our existing principles for its call to action. It first uses the language of the 8th principle, which this congregation adopted in 2020, to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. And then it takes the language of the current 5th principle to support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decision. I love how clever the writers were with this, because it's not just enough to have democratic processes. I believe that our old principles fell short in just naming democracy alone, because we know that democratic processes can be representative and still be oppressive. Majority rule is not necessarily just. No, this is saying that democracy is still the ideal way to run ourselves as a congregation, as a denomination, and as a country, but that we must use that democracy to create that beloved community and dismantle racism and systemic oppression. If we are democratic but not working for justice, then we are not doing our full job. Now, I know you all know I could preach about justice every single darn week and still not get to all of the opportunities and nuances of justice. As it's a verb and a mindset and never a destination, it is both our opportunity and our joy to make it a part of our daily existence. So let me just call out one way that we can work for justice within the words of this principle, to build a multicultural, beloved community that dismantles the systems of racism and oppression. We can't build that community if we are just here in this building talking about the people who are affected by oppression and racism. We must get proximate. It is Brian Stevenson of the Equal Justice Initiative who has taught me the most about getting proximate. EJI works within the justice system to overturn the sentences of those who have been wrongly convicted. He is also behind the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, otherwise known as the Lynching Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. If you ever get the chance to go to it, go. It will change your life. Stephen says this about getting proximate. I think sometimes when you're trying to do justice work, when you're trying to make a difference, when you're trying to change the world, the thing you need to do is get close enough to people who are falling down. Get close enough to people who are suffering, close enough to people who are in pain, who've been discarded and disfavored, to get close enough to wrap your arms around them and affirm their humanity and their dignity. This is exactly what's happening with our involvement with the Maryland school that Gary explained. This is what UU Jazz is striving to do, to get us more proximate with the people and the organizations doing work here in Arizona. And that is one of the most important ways to continue to love in public. It is also part of UU the Vote in reaching out one to another to get proximate to change the world through our democracy. Stevenson also said that we need to stay hopeful about justice even when it's complicated. Of course it's complicated. If justice were easy, it would be a destination and we'd surely be there by now. But as an action, as a verb, it is something that we are always incorporating into our lives. It is a lens for how we see the world. It is an invitation to think outside of ourselves. And it is an invitation itself. Because beloved community is not something we're creating for someone else to benefit from. The whole idea of beloved community is that we all benefit when we are making the circle wider, when we are breaking down hate, and when we are filling it with love. Justice is the result of love being at the center of who we are. Justice is a verb that we are living into each and every day. Justice makes us all free. Justice, it's what love looks like in public. May it be so.